All right, is anybody there? Nobody's there. Nobody's there. Somebody's here. Hello. I just want to get a sound check, make sure that things are working. Let's see, make sure my audio is working. USB mic is on. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Maybe I should turn the light up. All right. I'm here getting ready to work for work. Oh, okay, thanks. I paid good money for Streamyard, and Streamyard's whole system is down, and so I can't broadcast the new way that I'm paying really good money to stream for, and now I'm back to doing it the free way through OBS. So this is my backup plan. Welcome to those. Hey, welcome, Leilani. Is that how you pronounce that name? Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Like I said, normally I was going to have a little pre-roll video and my little intro thing all through StreamYard, and StreamYard's website is down. According to Google, the whole site's down. Nobody can broadcast. Wouldn't you know? I literally just checked StreamYard about an hour before coming on here, and everything was good. And I was getting ready, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go kill some time, come back and do my show. And then, yeah, StreamYard's down. Fantastic. Listening from work again, Renee. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I appreciate that. I'm on a backup plan right now because StreamYard has gone down. Thank you for the gift, Leilani. I appreciate that very much. So we'll give it a few minutes here to get started. I'll try to go more towards the top of the hour. Gosh, you know, it'd be nice if my eyeballs could focus on the small print in the corner. So we will. I pronounced your name right. Fantastic. Perfect. You know, more it was a matter of I wasn't sure I could see the print because my eyesight is horrendous today for some reason. Just saw TikTok is the 26th June hearing postponed. Let me see. Well, according to the website, they haven't updated it. 6/26 still shows the date here. Got to run by 2 p.m. meeting. I'll be back. Okay. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. Do I listen to Dave Betrus? Last 2 TikToks related to Luigi. One was I was not impressed. I haven't listened to Dave Betrus or Beatrice for a while now. In fact, I hadn't seen a lot of stuff. I'm not as busy on TikTok as I used to be because TikTok kept suspending me and I kind of got tired. I am making daily videos for TikTok and trying to stay up on responding to people on TikTok. I'm trying to re-engage TikTok in a different way since they won't allow me to go live. Apparently, I get restricted every time I go live on TikTok, so I'm kind of getting frustrated with that. But no, I haven't seen Beatrice. And somebody just said that June 26 may have been postponed. Let's see. Has Luigi Manjone's can't even type. Trial date for June 26 been postponed. Nope, not according to that. That doesn't mean that that's right, but yeah, I would be curious to see. Has been postponed from June 6th to September 16th. Spread the word. That's a TikTok. No, that's not a TikTok thing. Just in 52 minutes ago. So I don't know. That's new to me. Yes, it was rescheduled, Renee says. Okay. So yeah, that's new to me. Again, website LuigiManjoneInfo.com hasn't updated it yet because they still show the Thursday date. But that doesn't mean that they're not behind. I'm sure they've got bigger things to do than to update that calendar the second they hear about it. So I will double check that after the show. In the meantime, we'll get started in about 1 minute. I'm just going to double check StreamYard, see if StreamYard's still down. StreamYard's still down, so we're going to have to go with this way. What I'm curious, oh, there's always a delay, that's why. Okay. So we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll get going. Karen had requested a 30-day continuance. So June 26 would take us to July 26. Somebody said it was postponed. Oh, so, and then they scheduled it for September something. Okay. Interesting. Good info. How about that? Like, I stay all over these cases and I'm getting to hear this live on my show. But that's so cool that you guys keep me informed so I don't have to miss too much. And I will check that out, verify it, make a video for it about later. In the meantime, it's 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So welcome to those small handful of you who have tuned in on YouTube. Still trying to build an audience here. It's funny, we're approaching 3,000 on the YouTube channel, and still it's kind of hard to get a live going here on this thing. I wanted to let you know a few things before we get started. One, let me get my screens rearranged. Okay, so let's see. Let me get my screens rearranged in such a way that I feel like, okay, so here we go. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what I plan to talk about for this hour today. I cover two cases, as you may know. I cover Luigi Manjone, the alleged shooter in the Brian Thompson situation in New York, CEO of United Healthcare, and Brian Kohberger and the Idaho 4 case. Those are my two primary cases. Now on YouTube lately, it's the Idaho 4 case that seems to be hot on YouTube. Not a lot of traction on Luigi. However, I'm starting out this live. I'm planning on starting out covering some stuff about Luigi Manjone and the big buzz, if you will, that's still going on about the 27 things I'm grateful for written by Luigi Manjone, or allegedly written by Luigi Manjone. I'm going to cover whether or not I think that was written by Luigi Manjone, and then I'm going to show you some things that I found in the document that I thought were interesting. Also, then we're going to, for the next 3/4 of the show, it's going to be about Idaho 4. You may or may not be interested in paying attention to it. It really depends on whether or not you want to hear about the alternative suspects, because right now in the court case, in the court documents, it's clear that we're having a fight under gag order, under seal, for alternative suspects, and I'll cover that in a little bit. So what I want to do, from the few of you who are in the room, if you're willing and if you're able, to just type in 1 if you're here for Luigi Manjone content, 2 if you're here for Idaho 4 content, or 3 if you're here for both. And I can't wrestle that cat off the back of my chair. That cat was dug in. Anyways, I tried to kick her out of here before the show. She hid from me, and then now that I'm live, she's claiming there. So 3, good. Kimberly's here for both. So 1 if you're here primarily for Luigi, 2 if you're here for Brian Kohberger's Idaho 4 case, 3 if you're here for both. And the reason why is I just kind of want to make sure, if the audience is mostly one way, I might tailor how much time we spend on one or the other. And there's a huge delay. It's so funny watching me wrestle that cat that I was just talking about a minute ago. Anyways, sometimes you listen to both. Okay, so we've got right now we've got a couple of people, it looks like, for both cases. One that's Idaho 4, and one that's Luigi. So you know what? At the moment, with the small sample size that we got, we're going to do exactly what I planned. We're going to start with some Luigi. And then we're going to move into Idaho 4. And so if you're here for Idaho 4, bear with us for just a little bit. So first of all, I wanted to say there's this buzz, right, about the infamous letter log of Luigi Manjone, the 27 things that I'm grateful for that he wrote allegedly on his 27th birthday. Places like, oh my gosh, that cat, I cannot believe I tried to kick the cat out of here, and she's going to be all over me during this live. All right, so TMZ. I understand. Please understand that I understand that TMZ is not a credible source. I'm just using it as an example to show you reasons why I think that this letter is legitimate. The 27 things that I'm grateful from Luigi Manjone. As before, there was a letter that was widely circulated, and people were arguing amongst each other about whether or not it was legitimate, called Tales from MDC, the Meddler, and it was written by Luigi Manjone, and there was 68 copies sent to individuals, typed up with handwritten notes on people's individual letters from Luigi Manjone. Those, I think, were legitimate. We discussed why I think they're legitimate, and I did a whole show on why I think might be some hidden or deeper meanings behind the MDC, the Meddler story. But like that, we now have this new letter that again has the telltale marks that we had before. It's numbered. We're going to see in the corner up at the top where I'm circling, if you can see my mouse movement, it's numbered. The last letters were numbered down on the bottom. This is lettered at the top, but I think that the true links, the number, all that stuff matches up. And like before, what we have is we have multiple copies of this letter circulating on the internet. that all seem to be the same letter, and I think it's legitimate. And TMZ, like I said, while I don't say TMZ is a source, there are many sources that are citing this letter. TMZ is just one of them, but I wanted to use this as an example because if you blow up this letter right here in the TMZ article talking about, here it is blown up a little bit more. We're going to bring it to this page, and I'm going to try to blow it up on screen a bit for you to see better. I'm going to show you some things that I thought were interesting. So again, this is just for reference sake to show that I think this is the same letter as another letter I'm going to show you. I would be remiss I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Freemasonry thing. Look at this, they're showing us letter number 33 with a pyramid. And so what it looks like is it's 33 of, and that to me looks like an infinity symbol with the line under it. Now, at first I thought it was 33 of 100, and maybe this line of the thing was supposed to be 1, and these were 0, 0. But the more I look at it, I think it's 33 of infinity, which indicates that Luigi Manjone didn't know how many copies of the letter he was going to send out, so he just put infinity, and who knows. And it also indicates potentially for me, if I were to reading into Luigi Manjone's psyche from this little look, is that he doesn't care about these things being public. Like, he intends for these things to go public. It's infinity meaning everybody and their dog can read this, but maybe I'm reading into that too much. You'll notice some telltale marks as well in this particular letter. They have this big huge block here that's blocking out number 27. It's separated. There's 26, and then there's a space, and then and finally 27, and it's redacted. In this other letter that I'm going to show you, it is also blocked out. So I don't know why or what's going on with that. Excuse me. It seems that even on the multiple copies of letters, people are hiding number 27, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. But I wanted to point to you this document here, which is another version. This is letter number 45 of infinity, if you will. And so I'm just going to point out a few things that I thought were interesting about this Luigi Manjone letter from my perspective. One, I'm going to say that I assume that Luigi Manjone actually wrote this letter and that these are legitimate, and this is him numbering it. Last time, again, in the lower corner, he numbered them down in the corner with a circle that said, like, 24 of 68, and it had a couple of hash marks. There's weird symbols that he's used. Now, whether or not he's doing that on purpose or not, I'm not sure. But and maybe he just likes to do things stylistically and for fun. But here's number 45. Again, the TMZ one's number 33. But I'm just going to point out a few highlights, and then we'll move on to the Brian Kohberger stuff. So, one, I thought it was interesting. He talks here about being thankful for his friends first and foremost, for being there when I needed it most. So Luigi Manjone, I would take from that, is in contact with his personal friends in some way. Also his family. My family, and this was super interesting, redacted, my personal life is none of your business. There's several things that I thought were super interesting about that, just from a human interest sake. One, if Luigi Manjone wrote this, he's thankful for his family. And many of you have wondered, did Luigi Manjone have a break from his family? Why is his family not talking about his case? Why aren't they out there in the public? Why aren't they supporting him? Why did he not talk to his mama for 6 months before this event? If they, all of these questions coming up about what happened between Luigi Manjone and his family. Here, if we believe that Luigi Manjone did indeed write this letter, he's thankful for his family, and then adds this redacted, which is super interesting, because why put that in there? Like, it's so weird. My personal life is none of your business. Now, what does that mean? Is Luigi telling us, if this is again his thing, that that his personal life is none of our business? He's got a public life, and his personal life is none of any of our business? Or is he just saying that he's not going to tell you about his family relationship? So I think there are things that Luigi Manjone clearly wants the public to know. I think Luigi Manjone is putting letters out there that he knows is going to be shared to the public. That's my opinion. And so therefore he's not entirely saying my personal life has nothing to do with you or none of your business, because he's telling us lots of stuff about him. But apparently when it comes to his family, he doesn't want to talk about that. But he's thankful for his family. So again, reading between the lines for those people who feel that Luigi Manjone has had a falling out with his family, maybe not so much. So, and yeah, so someone pointed out, by the way, and if I had StreamYard, I could pin your comment nice and easy, but StreamYard's down. So Nian said that number 27 may be personal for individuals, and maybe he left it blank. I think what happened, I think Nian's got the answer, which is that I think number 27 is left blank, and then Luigi Manjone writes in some kind of personal note for 27. And I'll show you that here as well. So if you look down here, 27 has the word light written into it. Light, period. And then he's got a note down here, thanks for the birthday message, never lose the plot. And then you got something else blocked out. What I believe is, like Nian is saying in the chat, which is that number 27 on his letter log is always left blank, and then he personalizes the letter by writing in something to the individual personally that he's thankful about. In particular, this user, whoever it is, we don't know, Luigi Manjone is thankful for light. Now that probably means that that person, in my opinion, reading between the lines, Luigi Manjone has been writing to this person has been writing to them, and that would mean something to them. Something personal that person wrote to them, they would understand why he's thankful for light. So that's my take. It's also the take why the TMZ letter here has this blocked out, because that was probably a personal message that was to this particular person, whoever got letter number 33. So good catch, Nian. I think you nailed that on the head. So let's go on. Some other things I thought were interesting to point out. The countless books that I've been sent. This is number 7 on his list of things he's thankful for. While I'll never read the vast majority of them. So he's admitting, you're sending me tons of books and I'll never read the vast majority. Just bluntly out there, I'm not going to read most of these books. I've loved facilitating this collective practice in Sudoku. Which, by the way, I had to look that up. Sudoku, not Sudoku like the game, but Sundoku, the Japanese word referring to the practice of buying books and letting them pile up unread. That's a thing. We know Luigi Manjone allegedly had gone to Japan. He talked about visiting Japan. He talked to Kohberger Bogle about Japan being full of a bunch of NPCs. So there's all kinds of evidence that Luigi Manjone has some kind of association with Japan. And so here he's using a Japanese word, talking about the piling up of books. Sundoku. I don't know why I can't pronounce that word very easy. Anyways, and I have distributed these books to many grateful inmates. So that's kind of cool. Luigi Manjone's getting tons of books, and maybe he's got other inmates going, hey dude, can I borrow that book? If you're not going to read it, sure, here, have a book. So you guys who are helping Luigi Manjone's books are helping populate his ward or his unit with books, of which his fellow inmates are probably thankful that you guys are unwillingly sharing the love. So let's continue on. So he talks about, I've loved facilitating this collective practice and have distributed these books to many grateful inmates. My favorites, so this is Luigi Manjone's favorites, include Ayn Rand's Anthem, Patrick Bet-David's Your Next 5 Moves, and Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 51. So when I look at things like that, I think, okay, a lot of us want to know Luigi Manjone as a man and understand him as a human being, so I had to look up these things. Let's take a peek at this a little bit. Here is Ayn Rand's Anthem. You can see that it's a book basically about kind of like a dystopian future where nobody's allowed to think individually. Everybody has a collective view of everything. It's kind of this weird a future, kind of dystopian future where nobody is allowed to have individual thought, and you're all just basically robots repeating the same thing and not thinking for yourself. So there's a nice philosophical book that Luigi Manjone puts up there at the top of his list. It's a book from 1996. Interestingly enough, there's a little trailer I found for an animated version of the book. I think you could hear the audio.
It is a sin to write this.
Can you hear that audio?
It is a sin to think words. No.
Could you hear that? I think you could hear that audio. However, if I don't put it in headphones, you're going to get a really bad echo. And I don't want to play much of it because I don't want to get into copyright protection and all that stuff. Kimberly received a response. Kimberly, you received a response. His personal life is none of your business. I hope on God he wrote that. So anyways, yeah, Kimberly, if you did receive... Oh, yeah, perfect. You will not discuss it or discuss what it was about. Perfect. But you got a personal letter. Fantastic. Good job. I would be curious, but obviously you just stated we're not going to talk about it, so I won't ask you about it. So anyways, this is a little trailer of Ayn Rand's Anthem.
Others think and put them down on paper. No others are to see.
The Council of Vocations now calls equality 72521.
Scholar.
So these people in this book, apparently, in this animated trailer for the book, are just given a number. Nobody has any personal identity. He wants to be called Scholar, it sounds like, but they're just calling him, whatever his number is. It's an interesting take on Luigi Manjone. And again, I've got a series. You may not give a shit about this, but I'm going to share this with you anyways. That I've got a series called Luigi Manjone's Bookshelf. We just finished An American Sickness, which is a book that Luigi Manjone recommended. I'm looking for other books in this series. I already have started the next book in the series. The next book in the series is going to be Ted Kaczynski's so-called Manifesto, because Luigi Manjone wrote a big Goodreads account and allegedly had referenced Ted Kaczynski's Manifesto in the so-called diary, which the feds and the law enforcement are calling a manifesto of Luigi's, in which he stated essentially that Ted Kaczynski lost his message by his delivery. That because he blew up, used bombs and hurt innocent people lost his message, but that his message was good. So I have started a new book review of Ted Kaczynski's book, and I did an intro that will be very, very, very controversial. I went on a rant. I think I may have gone too far. I read somebody's comment to me. And I don't want to do the rant again here. I read someone's comment to me just before making the intro to that book series, and their comment set me off. And so I went on a little personal rant about something they said, and I have that in the intro to the book. A little too over the top. Neanne keeps having problems of being able to not send me shit because YouTube keeps deleting it on her. So I'm sorry about that. So we'll talk about that kind of later, because again, in the Luigi Manjone's Bookshelf, we may get around to reading maybe Ayn Rand's Anthem, although that's a fiction book. It's a little harder to do analysis. There's this next book that Luigi mentions, Your Next 5 Moves, Master the Art of Business Strategy. This looks like a really particularly interesting book. I love self-help books. This would be a good candidate for Luigi Manjone's Bookshelf if we're still doing this. After we get done reading Ted Kaczynski's Manifesto. And again, in case you're wondering, why the hell would you read Ted Kaczynski's Manifesto? The reason being is because we are watching Luigi Manjone's case with all eyes on board and trying to understand Luigi Manjone as a man. This is why we're looking at his letters. That's why we're analyzing every part of him, trying to understand, did Luigi do it or did he not do it? If he did it, why did he do it? Let's understand Luigi Manjone. If he recommends books to read, it's an insight into his personality. He also mentions Terence McKenna. I've got that on my list as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Fahrenheit 451, famous book. Most people know about Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, another one of these kind of dystopian future ideas where people aren't allowed to read and think for themselves. So out of the 3 books that Luigi Manjone references in that particular paragraph right here, he particularly likes Anthem and Ray Bradbury's 451, Fahrenheit 451. Those 2 books are kind of like a dystopian future where people are not allowed to think for themselves. They have very similar concepts, it sounds like. So that tells you a little bit about Luigi Manjone. And again, this alludes to the idea that Luigi Manjone referred to certain people as NPCs, and that he didn't want to be an NPC, like most people who just go through life without thinking for themselves and just do what people tell them. Okay, I'm spending more time on Luigi Manjone than I anticipated, so let's kind of move through this. He praises and being thankful for independent media creators, publications like The American Prospect, citizen documentaries like Jumi Kim, and citizen journalists, of which there are too many to name. I don't know. Would Luigi consider Devil's Advocates a citizen journalist? I don't know. But he's not thanking me because he doesn't know anything about it. But here's American Prospect, in case you're interested, prospect.org. I believe this is what he's talking about. It's interesting because there's this site has a lot of talk about Trump, and there's references in the same letter to Trump, which I find interesting. Again, I don't want to make this political, so we'll just be short on that. So let's go on to here's where I think maybe Jumi Kim. So he mentions Jumi Kim. a Democrat's case for Trump. So again, you've got the American Prospect right there. You can see at the top there's a reference to Donald Trump. You've got Democrats' Case for Trump by Jumi Kim, and Luigi mentions documentaries by Jumi Kim. Is it the same Jumi Kim? I don't know. I think so. When I was trying to look what he's talking about, that's the one that kept coming up all the time, is that particular Jumi Kim from many different website or YouTube commentaries, and then in generic, citizen journalists. Luigi has a comment I thought was interesting at 12. Keyboard shortcuts. He's thankful for keyboard shortcuts. There's no print multiple option. MA, click, enter, XP, click, enter, repeat. I know a little bit about keyboard shortcuts. This should be a cut and print, XP. M&A looks like it was more like a mark this thing in a video thing. I don't know what to make of that. I don't think he'd be doing video editing, so I don't know what that means. Maybe if you guys know, I'll look in the chat and see if you guys have an idea. I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, that is a weird thing to be thankful for. It caught my attention. The BOP music catalog, Luigi. Now this I thought was weird. If Luigi wrote this letter, he refers to himself in the third person. Luigi is currently listening to Television, The Drug of a Nation by the Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy. I can't even say that. I had the video up on my screen. It's an old song. And video. Oh look, I've got a cow on my screen. Let's see if I can get my shit back together. Anyways, so I thought that was interesting as well. That he would, if he wrote this, that he refers to himself in the third person. Luigi is currently listening to Television, The Drug of a Nation. You could look up on YouTube, Television, The Drug of the Nation by Disposable Heroes, and that'll get you that audio video. It is like 8 minutes long. There's a big intro and then the song itself. And I'm not going to play the song on here because I was just going to show the video clip, but I won't play the song on there. Yeah, and then we talk about, I thought this was weird, number 20, I didn't highlight it, my lucky long sleeve. I don't know, you don't have personal clothing in the jail, right? So I'm not sure what his personal long sleeve was. Anyways, he notes the creatives he's thankful for. The artist's task is to save the soul of mankind, and anything less is a dithering while Rome burns by Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna, a famous 60s psychonaut who was big into mushrooms. There's been a lot of talk about Luigi Manjone and whether or not he was into mushrooms. I did a full video on YouTube, not super long, where I gave my insights into mushrooms and what keeps coming up from time to time with people asking me, do you think that Luigi Manjone had a psychotic break because he was into mushrooms? No, I do not think. I don't think that's even remotely possible. Luigi Manjone did not. I'm going to say unequivocally one more time like I did in that video. I have no reason at all to believe that Luigi Manjone had a psychotic break and that's why he shot Brian Thompson. That's to me, that's ignorance. And if you watch my video on it, you can hear my rant on it. I hope I can do that carefully without getting in trouble with YouTube. I did double check the community guidelines. I'm allowed to talk about things like that topic as long as I'm not promoting it and trying to tell you to go out and do it, and I certainly don't. And then I thought this was a weird quote. The last couple things I'll mention, actually the last thing I'm really going to mention, he talks about being born in America. I'm thinking he's talking about America, about the country, is haunted by her past. She is sick. She is plagued by inner turmoil. She is her nature as a nation of individuals. She is young in the midst of adolescent identity crisis, but despite all her flaws, her fame is robust and her potential unmatched. I find that odd if that's a reference to America, because America is not all that young. We've talked in a previous video of mine about how nations tend to decline after about 250 years. The United States is well past the 250 year part. We are in what many historians believe is the decline of our civilization. So we're not at the height of their civilization, nor are we a young civilization. So I don't know. I mean, young perhaps in comparison to a dynasty that goes 3,000 years, but as far as the rise and fall of nations, we're kind of on reaching the apex of when decadence starts to set in and countries fall. So there's that. Let's see if I got a comment in here. Hey, Devil's Advocates, I'm new to your channel. I really enjoy your content. I'm here for it all. Idaho 4 and Luigi. Don't mind the language or the rants. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're here for it all. We're almost done with covering my thoughts on Luigi Manjone, because people keep asking me, which is fantastic. People keep asking me, hey, Devil's Advocates, have you seen Luigi's 27 things he's thankful of, and what do you think? So this is some of my early thoughts on what do I think for you. And again, number 27, as Nean, one of my very, very, very faithful from the beginning followers on YouTube, as pointed out, I believe 27 was probably left blank for Luigi to handwrite in notes just like this. This individual showed what Luigi wrote to them, simply the word light, and that means something. Never lose the plot is interesting, especially in a situation where people get tied up on the minutia of Luigi Manjone and perhaps will miss the plot, which is what really is happening in this case. I think this is a big case. I think this is a landmark case. I think that America is going to have some big talks because of what's happening. Here's the other copy of Luigi Manjone's letter, that TMZ thing. Here they just put a big huge block over what was probably a personal letter by Luigi Manjone. Kimberly, if you got I don't know if you got a copy of this exact letter when you said you weren't going to talk about the letter. I'm just curious if you can confirm if that's the letter you got, if there was a handwritten note there and that's consistent. I think that's what's happening there. Anyways, we're basically done with Luigi. Now the rest of this is going to be Brian Kohberger. But before I move on to Brian Kohberger, I want to ask, is there any Luigi questions that I can address that is on your mind? Because I realize it's been kind of slow. It looks like, from what I've seen at the top of the hour, people are saying that the June 26th court date in the state of New York versus Luigi Manjone, that Karen Agnifilo requested a 30-day extension, and so therefore it has been postponed. If that's the case, I haven't vetted it and proved it, but I do trust that that's likely the case. So, any other questions about Luigi before we move on? Yeah, the Americas are the youngest continent if we ignore a bunch of things. Right, again, there's a perspective in which you can say America's young, but there's also a perspective in which you can say America's on the downward slide of their heyday. All right, so let's go ahead and move to Brian Kohberger. Now, we got through all of that. So, you may have noticed in the Brian Kohberger Idaho 4 case, there was a bunch of documents that dropped relatively recently. It's super interesting. Lots of people are commenting. There's not a lot here, and there's not a lot new that I can share other than giving you my personal thoughts. That we are heating up. We are heating up in the Brian Kohberger case because it is clear that Hippler... Well, okay, so let me back up a hair. Earlier on, the defense for Brian Kohberger suggested that there was alternative suspects in the Idaho 4 case. Hippler and the prosecution filed a motion that said, please don't allow the defense to talk about alternative suspects without having some kind of definitive proof. Then, just recently, the defense filed, we have a name or names of alternative suspects, and filed that with the judge. The judge then responded, essentially, okay, now that you've presented me names, I need some hard evidence. And then that was presented, some hard evidence, and now the prosecution wants no one to see who the alternative suspects are or the evidence that goes to support it, and has asked the judge to gag that and seal it under order, and it has been sealed. So follow the logic. What's exciting about this, if you will, is that there are alternative suspects. The defense says that there's other names that they believe were involved in this crime. There's other suspects, and they provided evidence. If you look at this seal, this is one of those new documents that have been relatively newly released, 6/9/2025, so just a couple days ago, in which, based on the motion to seal, objection to defendant's offer of proof, alternative perpetrators, and defendant's evidence in support of offer of proof, alternative perpetrators, and attached exhibits, the court does hereby confirm that the order is exempt from disclosure and sealed pursuant to blah, 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 blah. What does that mean? What it means, the key points is, the defense has submitted proof of an alternative suspect and another document called defendant's evidence in support of the proof of an alternative perpetrator. Both of those were filed by the defense. There are names, people. There are names in this case now who clearly the defense said, we know other people that very likely could have done this, and we've got names and we've got proof. And the prosecution quickly moved in and said, judge, do not release those names and do not release the evidence, and let us have time to talk about that behind closed doors. So the game is on. The game is, and we're all dying to know who those alternative suspects are. Now, one of my favorite YouTubers, Harsh Reality, did a video today which is going to spawn the rest of this conversation. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to check out if you want to, because you may not like where this is going, because it's going to be a recap for some. But as Harsh Reality pointed out, let me summarize what Harsh Reality's point was today, and I'm going to riff on it because I agree with him. So Dateline NBC recently had an episode called The Terrible Night on King Road. In it was a lot of new details that we have never heard before. Afterwards, and it was shocking details, things about specific types of wounds, or the killer sitting down on a chair for a period of time inside the house and leaving a print. A lot of details were in that case that we had never heard before. Judge Hippler in the case essentially was furious after the airing of that show and wrote, somebody inside law enforcement, either formerly in law enforcement or currently in law enforcement, is leaking stuff to the media, and I want to know who did it, and I want to know the names, and I want them held accountable. And anybody who takes any steps to try to cover up who leaked this information to the press, I'm going to hold them accountable and in contempt of court. There could be loss, there could be civil penalties, there could be criminal penalties, there could be prison time for somebody in the extreme cases. The judge is furious, indicated that whoever is leaking information to places like Dateline NBC is jeopardizing the case, jeopardizing Kohberger's right to a fair trial, and costing the state of Idaho a lot of money, because now all of a sudden they have to do damage control to find a jury. It's going to be harder to find a jury who isn't been prejudiced by what they saw on the Dateline NBC case. So despite the fact that Hippler has always felt like he doesn't give a shit about the defense and this is a done deal in his opinion, he's pissed that somebody is ruining this case and jeopardizing the case by putting shit out there into the public that shouldn't have been out there. Shortly after that, getting to Harsh Reality's video, shortly after that, Harsh was talking about how, okay, Harsh didn't say this. This is going to get confusing. Shortly after the Dateline NBC expose and Hippler coming down saying somebody's leaking information, the family website for the Gonzalez family on Facebook was taken down due to community guidelines violations. Right after Stephen Hippler, right after Stephen Hippler said, somebody's leaking stuff to the press. We know Steve Gonzalez goes on every opportunity to go on TV and talk about this case that he can, and he keeps leaking more and more details. I believe, and I've said before why I believe, that somebody inside law enforcement is leaking information to Steve Gonzalez, and then Steve Gonzalez, who isn't, his First Amendment rights are better than the prosecution. So somebody inside the prosecution or law enforcement tells Steve things, and then Steve goes and takes his First Amendment right to talk about it and tells us things that are coming from the inside of law enforcement and prosecution. It's a legal loophole that allows Steve to talk about things because the prosecution is gagged from it. Prosecution can't talk about it. So what they do, they tell Steve, this is my theory, they tell Steve Gonzalez, and then Steve Gonzalez goes out on national TV and tells everybody about what's coming from the prosecution without naming the thing. So right after that happened, Steve Gonzalez and the Gonzalez family website group on Facebook was taken offline. As far as I know, I think it's still offline, but it was taken offline immediately. And I said, gee, I wonder if this is related to the Gonzalez, Steve Gonzalez constantly leaking information. And now all of a sudden that the judge wants the leak shut down, the website shut down. So Harsh did a video today where he's ruminating again as, isn't it interesting that we don't hear from Steve Gonzalez all of a sudden? Like, why is he all of a sudden quiet? Which he's been quiet since the leak became a shitstorm on TV. So I think there's something going on there. But what I want to do now, because Harsh Reality started to go into this particular article, and then I went down a huge rabbit hole where I want to finish the day on Brian Kohberger repeating a story that is more likely to be what, in my opinion, I've said it before, so if you've heard all this before and you don't want to hear it again, I'm going to have some new articles. I'm going to outline it even more for you, but it's not something new. So you're going to be like, devil's advocates, we've heard you say this already. I don't need to hear it again. So if you don't want to hear about the Corner Club, if you don't want to hear about what happened that night at the Corner Club and why I believe that there's a way better alternative suspect, and now we have the defense saying we got alternative suspects and we got proof of alternative suspects and everyone's freaking out, who the hell are the alternative suspects? Let's go back and review what I've said from the very beginning. In my opinion, every spidey sense in my body tells me the key to what happened that night, the absolute key to what happened to that night, is what happened at the Corner Club before the murders. That night at the Corner Club, that is the key to what happened that night. Now, let's break down that in excruciating detail, and then we'll finish up the day. So, what I want to point out again is Jack DeCoeur the story of Jack DeCour and what happened at the Corner Club between Kaylee Gonzalez and Jack DeCour and Maddie Mogan and Jack Showalter, that story won't die for me. It just won't die for me. And I want to point out a few things that I feel like can't be hit enough. Because again, let me reiterate real quick. The argument for many people in America is that an incel, a guy who just isn't good with women, decided that because he's not good with women, which is all speculation, the media has decided Brian Kohberger's not good with women, and because he's awkward with women, which they decided, that made him hate women, which they decided. Then they used the support of the idea that he graded some females' papers too harshly in school to prove that he didn't like women, and so he had it out for women and graded them harshly. Then they used this loose tangential idea that maybe Brian Kohberger might have had an account on Instagram and might have liked with a thumbs up Maddie Mogan's photo to suggest that he was obsessed with Maddie and came there that night to kill Maddie. Let me reiterate for you again why Kaylee Gonzalez is the target of that house, in my opinion, not Maddie. And furthermore, Brian Kohberger has no interest in Kaylee Gonzalez. Even in the best case scenario, with your Brian Kohberger was obsessed with Maddie and couldn't have her, so he decided to kill a whole house of people because he couldn't have Maddie. Even in that scenario, it doesn't make as much sense as what was going on with Kaylee Gonzalez and what happened at the Corner Club that night. So we're going to cover about half a dozen different, we're going to cover a few articles about that night and about the relationship between Jack DeCour and Kaylee. Then we're going to show Howard Bloom's chapter on the Corner Club again. I'm going to highlight some specific things about what happened that night. I will make some caveats about Howard Bloom, because I know a lot of you are like, Howard Bloom's shit, Mr. Devil's Advocates. I don't give a shit what Howard Bloom says. That guy's a crack. Okay, fine. But you know what Howard Bloom has in there? Is Howard Bloom has what I believe are some facts. He has some opinions, which I think his opinions stink, and I'm going to give you my opinions, and I bet you some of you think my opinions stink, but I'm going to give you my opinions. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to look at the facts that I think are pretty clearly facts, in my opinion, that Howard Bloom actually touches on. Then we're going to disseminate those from Howard Bloom's interpretation of those facts, which I think are horseshit, and I'm going to tell you my interpretation of those facts. So that's how we're going to spend the rest of this time. So let's go back to some articles from the past. Ex-boyfriend of stabbing victim Kaylee Gonzalez speaks out. There's Jack DeCour and Kaylee. Jack DeCour, 22, and Gonzalez, 21, had been dating for 5 years, maybe 6 by the way, when she broke things off with him just 3 weeks before she was murdered. This is important. November 12th/13 is the area of the murders. 3 weeks before puts us into late to mid-October. So a couple weeks back puts us into late October. Another week back from that, you're kind of at that 3/4 of the way to the end of October time period. So that's the time period when Kaylee broke it off. Now I want to point out something as we go along. A lot of you look for really simple answers. Realize that when a relationship ends, it's not necessarily the moment that things went bad. Things could have been going bad for some time before that. That was just the date in which Kaylee finally broke it off with Jack DeCour. And let me again, I'm going to put a theory in your mind. It's theory crafting. I am not telling you it's the truth. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not the news. Don't take anything I say other than opinion and speculation based on my understanding of the facts. And I will tell you this. If Jack DeCour, let me give you a scenario to ask you if this sounds plausible. If Jack DeCour and Kaylee are dating and it's 4 weeks ago instead of 3 weeks before the murders. She breaks it off with him 3 weeks before the murder. But let's say Jack DeCour notices something's different about Kaylee. She's acting differently. She's colder. Maybe he suspects that she's moving on with the relationship or seeing someone else. And so he starts questioning her, being jealous, the jealous boyfriend. And then she finally says, you know what, if you don't trust me, it's over. I'm that kind of thing. I've been in relationships where I was a jealous boyfriend back when I was young, and you're like, are you seeing someone else? And you're like, if you don't trust me, screw you. So what if something was going on prior to this? Jack saw something happening. Kaylee was distancing herself, acting differently, and then 3 weeks before the murder, Kaylee tells Jack DeCour, it's over, I'm moving on. And maybe it's because Jack was becoming overly obsessed. He was becoming jealous. He was questioning her about what she was doing, watching her every move, having her followed. Let's get to that logic here. So we know for sure Jack DeCour Kaylee had broken off the relationship with Jack DeCour 3 weeks before the murders. That puts us in the October time frame. Moscow store manager says the Idaho murder victims shared fears about a potential stalker. A store manager in Moscow, Idaho has said that Kaylee Gonzalez voiced fears about a potential stalker before she and 3 other students were killed. The man told News Nation that Gonzalez and Madison Mogen visited his business about 3 weeks before they were killed. Now here we go. Jack DeCoeur had broken up with Kaylee Gonzalez 3 weeks approximately before she was killed. News Nation says Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Gonzalez visited his store about 3 weeks before they were killed. Same time frame that Kaylee breaks up with Jack DeCoeur. And he says, the store owner, Gonzalez and Mogen would always come together with 2 other girls. The last time the group was in the store, he said, he had asked them if they were traveling together as an attempt to stay safe. One of them more or less openly says, oh yeah, we've had one of our friends be stalked before, so that is why we travel in a group like this, the man said, adding that Maddie Mogen, who had voiced the concerns while motioning to Gonzalez. So in other words, what he's saying is, Maddie Mogen said, yes, we go in a group because one of our friends has been stalked, and she nods, motions, or whatever to Kaylee Gonzalez. Kaylee Gonzalez is the one who's being stalked. And the girls are walking in a group, always with Kaylee Gonzalez to protect her because she's being stalked. She's recently broke up with her boyfriend. She's being stalked by someone. This is all potentially right in that time frame, exactly when it happened. You could tell they were obviously trying to keep Kaylee safe and be there for her as a good friend. So this store owner realized they were protecting Kaylee because Kaylee, in my argument, is the target, not Madison Mogen. They're trying to redirect. The media is trying to redirect our attention and keep. It has been over and over again stated in the public and the media recently, over and over, that Maddie Mogen was the target. Well, Brian Kohberger he put a thumbs up on one of Maddie's pictures on Instagram. Maybe not. By the way, even in the Dateline NBC news hit piece, at the top of the screen where they showed Brian Kohberger looking at Maddie's pictures, it said, right at the top, if you were not paying attention, NBC Dateline cannot verify this account belonged to Brian Kohberger. But they'll freaking put it on the screen and tell you Brian Kohberger was stalking Madison Mogen and liked this photo. So the media is continually trying to move your attention off of Kaylee Gonzalez, who the law enforcement believed Kaylee was the person being attacked. This article in the early days is saying that the friends all traveled in a pack to protect Kaylee because Kaylee was concerned, and the friends are trying to keep Kaylee safe because Kaylee is being stalked after breaking up with her boyfriend. Moscow police said weeks ago that they have looked extensively at reports that Gonzalez had a stalker, but were unable to link that line of investigation to the murders. So there you go. Moscow police looked, however hard they decided to look, and determined that the murders weren't committed by her stalker. So we don't get to know the details about how law enforcement ruled out the stalker situation, but let's continue on. The department tracked down 2 men involved in one of those incidents and said that they were not in any way connected to the stabbings. Authorities said the men had followed Gonzalez into a business when they were trying to meet people and had been cleared. I want to point something out clearly. Kaylee Gonzalez called the police about these 2 individuals who were followed her into a store and followed her back out to the car. It freaked her out, and she called the police, and the police came and investigated as a potential. She's being stalked. She's had problems with a stalker before, and so she's calling the police. So we know Kaylee has had multiple talks about her stalker. Now, what goes unsaid here is, guess who that stalker isn't? Brian Kohberger. How do I know this? Because if it was Brian Kohberger, police would be all over it. Instead, what they tell you is, well, those guys have been looked into. I'll guarantee you that stalker wasn't Brian Kohberger. I guarantee you it. So let's break this down and use your logical, critical thinking skills. Kaylee Gonzalez is afraid for her life. She's going in a group of friends who are protecting her at all times because she's got a stalker and she's afraid. She's called police more than once about her stalker. And her stalker cannot be Brian Kohberger, because if it was, we would know about it. It would be all over the news that Brian Kohberger was the stalker. So the fact that the law enforcement looked into the 2 individuals and cleared the stalker, we know that stalker is not Brian Kohberger. Can you follow the logic? Am I pulling that out of my ass, or can you follow the logic? All right, let's continue. Several people have been ruled out as suspects. Here's the ones they ruled out. The 2 surviving housemates. Well, good for you guys. I'm glad that you guys have ruled out Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, because a great number of people who follow my channel, they haven't ruled out those suspects. But you know what? Law enforcement has ruled them out, so that's it. We're done. That's what the media wants you to think. Those people have been ruled out. Dylan and Bethany had nothing to do with it. Police told us so. The man who was caught on camera with Mogan and Gonzalez at a food truck in the downtown area before they headed home that night of the slayings, he's been ruled out. This is Jack Showalter, who followed the girls out of the corner club that night. Again, everything that happened in that murder, in my opinion, my gut, my spidey senses tell me, everything that happened that night in the house started at the corner club. All right, so Jack Showalter has been ruled out. We're going to look a little bit deeper into that in just a moment. The person who gave Mogan and Gonzalez a ride home from the food truck, they've been ruled out. Some believe it's a male, some believe it's a female. The driver that drove them home, they've been ruled out. Gonzalez's former long-term boyfriend, Jack DeCoeur, he's been ruled out. And the friends who were in the home when the 911 call was made, the sentence is horrible writing, but I believe that's what they're intending to mean. The boyfriend, Jack DeCoeur, was ruled out, and the friends who were at the home when the 911 call were made have been ruled out. Okay, let's continue on. Moscow police reveal that Kaylee Gonzalez's stalker incident and rule out connection to the murders. Police in Idaho have made new revelations about reports that one of the 4 University of Idaho students killed last month had a stalker. So now the police are confirming this story. Moscow police said the department was able to track down the previously reported claims that Gonzalez had complained about a stalker before her death. In a statement on Monday, the department said on Facebook that they are aware of an isolated incident involving Gonzalez and 2 men back in October. October? What happened in October? What happened in October, people? $1 million question. What happened in October? Kaylee Gonzalez just broke up with her boyfriend of 5 or 6 years, right at the end of October, mid to late October. So in mid-October, 2 males inside a local business, they parted ways. One male appeared to follow Kaylee inside the business, and as she exited to walk to her car door, the male turned away and did not appear that he made contact with her. Now, I want to break this scenario down. And again, pure speculation. So bear with me and allow me a little leniency to make a speculation. Because I've been in jealous relationships before. I've done a lot of growing as a man. Now that I'm an old man, I've realized that if somebody wants to cheat on you, you can't keep them from cheating on you, and no amount of trying to watch them or bird dog them is going to make a difference. When I was young and impetuous and I was a 20-something, 18-year-old man, I thought somehow if I just kept an eye on my girlfriend, I could keep her somehow faithful. No, you can't. What if the same kind of thing is happening with Jack DeCoeur? He suspects Kaylee is moving on. He suspects Kaylee is seeing someone else. So he starts having her followed. Right? He starts having his girlfriend followed. Maybe Kaylee finds maybe, this is speculation, maybe Kaylee finds out that Jack DeCoeur is having her followed, that the jealous boyfriend doesn't trust her anymore and he's having her followed. And she finally says, 3 weeks before her death, Jack, it's over. If you don't trust me, and maybe she even said, yeah, you know what? I am seeing someone else, but don't follow me. So maybe she figured it out, maybe she didn't. Again, everything that happened that night, I think, relates to this relationship, in my opinion. And I understand why people say that he's been ruled out. Let me do a little caveat, by the way, before I forget this point, because I want to make sure that you understand. Do you realize how many people commit domestic violence in a murder situation and then are sorrowful that they did it afterwards? So just saying, oh, well, Jack DeCoeur was heartbroken afterwards doesn't mean necessarily that he wasn't involved. O.J. Simpson, some believe, killed his wife, Nicole Simpson, and he looked shattered and heartbroken and suicidal after her death. And yet he might have been, according to a lot of people in America, he was the one that actually committed the crime. But he was still heartbroken and shattered because, on the one hand, it's a crime of passion. It's a rage thing. But that doesn't mean that you're not sorry for it after you've done it or you've been involved in it. So again, just saying that he was remorseful and people saw him being remorseful doesn't rule him out in my mind. But that's just me. If I was an investigator, I'm not looking at, oh, well, he was remorseful, so he must not have done it. Now, it continued. Detectives contacted both males, again, one of which cannot be Brian Kohberger, because if it was Brian Kohberger, we would know all about this shit. They contacted the 2 individuals attempting to meet women at a business. This was corroborated through additional investigation. So the police was heavy into the investigation of Kaylee Gonzalez's stalker weeks before her death, right about the same time she broke up with her boyfriend. Based on available information, detectives believe that this was an isolated incident and not an ongoing pattern of stalking. No evidence suggests the two males were involved in the murders. Again, great for the police if you believe that the police vetted everything and went down the rabbit hole as deeply as you and I would. Or did they too quickly, as Steve Gonzalez himself said, I believe law enforcement too quickly ruled some people out. So police did some looking. They polygraphed Jack DeCour. Jack DeCour came up okay on a polygraph test. His phone showed that he was at home that night, and that was good enough, apparently, for the police. Jack DeCour's phone was at his house, so he couldn't have been the one to go there, because apparently people aren't smart enough to leave their phone behind, right? Because Brian Kohberger took his phone to a quadruple homicide, because that's what people do. Anyways, I'm side-tangenting. I got a lot of sarcasm. So the point being is that Jack DeCour was ruled out, but one of those stalkers of Kaylee, who's making her afraid for her life and happened to be followed by her friends, is not Brian Kohberger, or you would have heard about it. All right. We're almost done with the Jack DeCour news articles. The ex-boyfriend of one of the 4 slain victims has been left devastated by the loss of the love of his life. He's not only lost the love of his life and what we all thought, and he probably thought as well, would be his future wife. You know, get married, have kids, all that. Again, Jack DeCour is, by definition, according to these kind of articles, obsessed with Kaylee Gonzalez. He thought she was going to be his wife. They had a dog together. They had a life together. He was going to marry her. They were going to have kids. And she said, it's over, Jack. I'm leaving you. And when you see what happens, if you haven't seen it before, what happens at the corner club explains how this escalated in a much more logical fashion than an incel who can't get laid having to go out and kill 4 people in the house because he's upset that he got rebuffed by a woman that we're not even sure he had any connection to whatsoever. And again, all indications are Kaylee was the one that was the targeted. She was the one they were trying to protect. She was afraid of her stalker. She had just broken up with her boyfriend, and shit hit the fan at the corner club that night. Miss Miller said that although her nephew and Gonzalez had broken up recently, they remained close. This is how you keep the story off the narrative. Oh, well, they were still close after the breakup. Everything was fine. It didn't matter to Jack that she was going to be his future wife and they were going to have kids together and she was going to leave him. He was over that. They were going to stay friends. Yeah, horseshit. That's not how that happens in most cases. Mr. DeCour's name began circulating in online forums discussing the murders after it was revealed that Gonzalez and Mogan, whose bodies were found on the 3rd floor of their off-campus rental home, called him at least 10 times shortly before 3 a.m. on the day of the murders. Gonzalez and Mogan visited a bar in Moscow downtown area before ordering pasta at a food truck that night. They got a lift home from a private party and returned at 1:56. Again, this article, something happened that night. We're going to review it again as we close. Something happened that night at the corner club and all shit hit the fan, and the girls were frantically calling Jack DeCour because they had been threatened, in my opinion. That's what we see. The girls have been threatened after what happened at the corner club, and they were frantically calling Jack DeCour, trying to call it off, calm him down, try to smooth over the waters because things went south at the corner club. I'm going to make that argument for you. Again, you can tell me to pack sand if you want. This is a video. I think you're going to be able to hear the audio. It's widely circulated, and Howard Bloom quotes from this scene. So I just want you to see the scene. It's very short. I want you to see it for yourself because Howard Bloom is going to quote from this scene. We're going to look at Howard Bloom's book next. We're going to close on Howard Bloom's book. And I get it. Howard Bloom is not an authority. I don't say Howard Bloom's an authority. My book review of his book, I'm going chapter by chapter through Howard Bloom's book, is not because I say you should read Howard Bloom's book. He understands this whole case like the back of his hand. No, I'm critical of Howard Bloom's case. But you know what Howard Bloom has is he has some facts and some details that have never been released before, that I think that he did some research, but then he puts in his own spin. I can tell when he's putting a spin on it and when he's showing facts. I'll show you why I think those are the cases. Let's watch this quick little clip. What you're going to see here is Maddie and Kaylee. Kaylee is going to be over here, if you can see my mouse thing, in this whitish kind of outfit. Beside her here will be Maddie. I think this might be Showalter who's with them. I can't remember, but the two we want to really focus on is Maddie and Kaylee. Kaylee here, Maddie here, and the statement that Howard Bloom is going to illuminate, and he quotes from the book this particular scene. If you don't hear it very well, it's okay. I don't like to spend a lot of time on isolated videos, so this isn't necessarily an isolated video, but Howard Bloom even believes this is exactly what's said. I'll break it down for you. That night at the club, we're going to read it again from Howard Bloom's book as we close, and we're going to probably be closing in about 20 minutes or so. That night at the corner club, Kaylee came in there to make a spectacle. She came into the corner club to humiliate her ex-boyfriend, Jack DeCour, to let everybody at the bar know it was over for good between her and Jack DeCour. Maddie spent the evening talking to Jack DeCour's best friend, the bartender, Adam. At that bar, she was whispering to Adam the whole time. People witnessed in the bar that Kaylee and Jack were having a terse moment. It was not good between the two of them, and she was loudly protesting that their relationship was over for good. Anybody that tried to counter the idea that the relationship was over for good, Kaylee made a spectacle. This relationship is over for good. That's what happened at that club. And then what happens is, as they're walking back, as they leave the bar that night after the shit hits the fan and she's humiliated her ex-boyfriend Jack DeCour, they leave the bar. Jack Showalter's following the girls, which he will say to keep them safe. There's arguments that they knew him or they knew of him, but they didn't seem to be close. According to Howard Bloom, Jack Showalter wasn't a close friend or anything like that, but he follows these girls out of the bar. There's a moment in which he says something like, "They're going to get you for this, Maddie." There's a moment where Maddie says to Jack Showalter, "Fuck you," indicating that she's pissed off about something he said. And then within an hour or so later, they're all dead. A couple hours later, that whole house essentially is wiped out. What happened at that club and what happened that night, and they're going to get you, I believe all relate. And here's the clip that many of you have seen where Kaylee asks Maddie, "What did you tell Adam?" Let's review one more time. Maddie, being Kaylee's best friend, they're both there. Kaylee's making a spectacle of how she's leaving Jack DeCour and that relationship is over. She had been staying somewhere else and she came back in town for this particular incident. She came into town to basically make a scene at Jack DeCour's bar where he hangs out, talking to his best friend, and Maddie spends all night talking to Adam, his best friend, Jack's best friend, at the bar. And as they're leaving, Kaylee says, "What did you tell Adam?" And she says, "Like, I told him everything." And then there's a moment again at the grub truck where Showalter says, "They're going to get you for this." And she's like, "Fuck you." They leave, and then they all get murdered. Well, let's listen to this real quickly. I'll play it one more time. You heard Kaylee say, "Maddie, what did you say to Adam?" And she's like, "I told him everything." So at the grub truck, like I said, something happens. Showalter's watching them from the shadows with his hat pulled down. This is according to Howard Bloom. A lot of you have seen the video. Maddie tells him to fuck off for some reason. We don't know what the context of that is. The girls get in a car. They frantically start calling. They frantically start calling Jack DeCour because shit hit the fan, in my opinion, that night at the corner club. They frantically start calling Jack DeCour. He does not answer any of their calls. And about an hour later, the whole house is dead except for 2 surviving roommates. If you don't think that is a more plausible story, that what happened at the corner club that night is what happened in this case, and it makes more sense that a guy who might have liked a girl's photo on Instagram or may not decided to come in and carve up Kaylee Gonzalez worse than anyone else and Ethan worse than others, that makes sense to you more. I don't know what to say really about that. To me, this is more logical. I have an open mind, however, so it's possible it happened the way that they say. But let's get to the book. I'm going to read some things in the book, and I'm going to show you a few more pages, because here's another thing people say. Well, let's just read it first. As for Kaylee and Maddie, they had their own plans for the evening. This is talking about how the girls had gone to a football game or they had been out for the evening. Now they're back at the house, 1122 King Road residence, and they're going to go out for the evening. As Kaylee and Maddie, they had their own plans for the evening. At just after 10, a cab picked them up at the house, and their destination, of all things considered, seemed a strange choice. Moscow offered any number of bars. Head downtown and you could make a pleasant time of it at Mingles, or at the Dirty Goat, or John's Alley, to cite just a few. On a football Saturday night, any one of them would be packed elbow to elbow with students and hard-drinking locals. But Kaylee Maddie, he refers to how close they are. They're always referred to as Kaylee Maddie. But Kaylee Maddie had their hearts set on going to the Corner Club on the northeast outskirts of Main Street. I've made a point that Howard Bloom said it was odd that they went to the corner club. I had someone bust my nuts in a chat saying, Devil's Advocates, you're an idiot. The bar is right next to their house. Well, let's take a look at that, people, because after I got my nuts busted, I decided to take a look. So Bloom said they could have gone to Mingles. Here's the house on King Road. Mingles is up here. That is, what is it, 1.3 miles. 1.3 miles. So he also said they could have gone to the Dirty Goat. That's 1.2 miles. They could have also gone to John's Alley Tavern. That's 1.1 mile. All three of those other bars are all just as close and in fact closer than the corner club. So to the person who kicks me in the balls and says, Devil's Advocates, you're an idiot. They went to the corner club because it was the closest bar. No. Like Howard Bloom, Kaylee picked going to the corner club because that's where her ex-boyfriend hung out, and she wanted to make a spectacle. She wanted to embarrass him. She wanted to make everyone know that relationship was over. She went there for the purpose, in my opinion, of making a spectacle at the bar that he goes to. Let's take a look where the corner club is. 1.4 miles. Granted, they are all very close, but this mileage is actually a hair longer than a couple of others that are actually on this side of the corner club. So they could have gone to at least 3 other bars that were technically closer, but they picked the corner club. And Howard Bloom makes a big deal out of it. Kaylee picked the corner club for a reason. She came there to make a spectacle of their relationship, to make sure people understood. Now, let's continue on with what happened that night. There was one additional detail in any rational world should have made their bar decidedly off limits. Why? In other words, why did they pick the corner club? According to Bloom, it should have been off limits. Why? All weekend, Kaylee had been insisting it was permanently over between Jack DeCoeur and her. And if anyone had the temerity to suggest otherwise, Kaylee would shoot back with unwavering certitude. This is it, she had repeatedly vowed. So, again, you can say that Howard Bloom can't be trusted as far as you can throw him. I think I'm giving Howard Bloom the benefit of the doubt because he even comes to a different conclusion. Howard Bloom's conclusion is that Kaylee, while telling everybody it was over between Jack, she was really secretly hoping to win him back, to make him jealous. Now, in that argument, Howard Bloom, you don't have a great story, because if it really was some secret, she just wants to make him jealous and win him back kind of thing, that also is a dangerous game to play that could get a bunch of people killed trying to make him jealous. But I think Howard Bloom, who in his book, Brian Kohberger is the killer, end of story, nobody else, and I need to clear everybody's thing, his rationale is, even though Howard Bloom will tell you Kaylee went there to make a spectacle of the relationship, to tell everyone loudly the entire weekend that it was permanently over between her, even after telling you that was what Kaylee was doing, he tries to plant the seed. She really was kind of wanting him back, though. My ass, Howard Bloom, you and I will have to beg to differ. Her actions are clear. She had broken the relationship off with Jack DeCoeur weeks before. She had been being stalked since breaking it off with Jack DeCoeur. She went to the bar and she made a spectacle of their relationship and humiliated him at the bar. They were followed after the bar, told that somebody was going to get Maddie for what happened. She told Adam everything, and then everybody gets murdered. Again, the circumstantial evidence that you will pile on Kohberger to say it has to be Kohberger because he didn't like girls and that's why he killed 4 people, 3 of them women and 1 male, because he just didn't like women because he couldn't get laid. That makes more sense to you than this story about what happened that night at the corner club. Yet if that was truly and this is where he tries to redirect, if it was truly the unalterable state of their union, then Kaylee would have been wise to not go to the corner club, even if it were the only bar in town. For on Saturday night, the bartender was certain to be Adam Lauda. He was a hunky 6'5" basketball player. He was Jack DeCoeur's roommate, frat brother, best buddy. With Adam behind the bar, it was a sure thing that Jack would be there drinking too. So again, Howard Bloom's pointing out, everyone knows Jack DeCoeur's best friend and roommate is the bartender at the bar. That's where Jack DeCoeur hangs out. That's why Kaylee went to the bar that night and picked that bar, which meant that her heading out to the corner club made no sense, unless, of course, it was as later suggested by those who knew her well, a considerable motivating factor in her decision to return to Moscow for the weekend had been to reconnect with Jack. Now, when you see the word reconnect with Jack, he's suggesting get back together with him. I don't believe that's what that means. That Howard Bloom is suggesting the entire reason that Kaylee came back into town to hang out was to one, he points out, show off her new car that she got, and two, to make it a spectacle that she was leaving Jack DeCour. And she made that clear when she went to the bar and made a spectacle of their relationship at the bar. Still, once the two girls joined the swirl of drinkers crowded in the club, Kaylee did her best to stick to her guns. Now, notice that, again, Howard Bloom is trying to redirect you. She has to stick to her gun. She's trying her best to stick to her gun, because in Howard Bloom's mind, she really wants to get back. That's Howard Bloom's narrative. Howard Bloom thinks that she wants to get back with Jack DeCour, that she's not actually breaking up with Jack DeCour, that she didn't actually break up with him 3 weeks prior, and that she's telling everybody in no uncertain terms. My God, Howard Bloom, you've stated in your own book that she was loudly telling everyone with no uncertain terms the relationship was over, but then you're saying she's trying to stick to her guns and be strong because secretly she wants Jack back. My ass, Howard Bloom. My ass. Let's stick to your facts, though. The bar was jammed, and so it was easy to keep her distance from Jack. They shared a few words, and in the judgment of those who witnessed the exchanges, so I believe that people did witness Jack DeCour and Kaylee Gonzalez at the bar that night, and that I'm going to trust Howard Bloom that he looked into this, that they seemed little more than polite, if not downright terse. In other words, things weren't good at the bar between Jack DeCour and Kaylee. So no, Howard Bloom, with your spin of she was secretly trying to win him back, you even said that she was loudly protesting that the relationship was over for good, and that when people witnessed them exchanging interactions that night, it was terse. Maddie, though, had apparently seen through her best friend's deception. This is, again, Howard Bloom trying to redirect you. Secretly, Kaylee really wants to get back. Never mind his repeatedly telling you she broke it off with him 3 weeks ago, and then she returned to humiliate him at the bar. He's still, Howard Bloom, going to redirect you to say that Maddie sees through her friend's ruse, that her friend really wants Jack back. And that's why, in Howard Bloom's opinion, she spends the night talking to Adam, the bartender. I don't believe that's what's happening at the bar. I don't believe at all for a second, Howard Bloom, that Maddie was trying to win Jack back for Kaylee. Because you told us yourself, Kaylee was there saying over and over again, it's over, the relationship is done. And anybody that protested, she was loud to say, no, it is done. So my ass, Howard Bloom, Maddie's trying to win Jack back for Kaylee. That is redirection bullshit. She spent the large part of that evening huddled at the bar with Lauda, no doubt probing his assessment of where things truly stand with Kaylee and Jack. Listen, that is, Howard Bloom is clearly telling you he's speculating. No doubt she's talking to him about Kaylee and Jack. We don't know what they were talking about, Howard Bloom. He wants you to believe that Kaylee's secretly trying to get Jack back, trying to see if there's a chance between the two of them. And who could blame her if she was set on seeing her friend happy? Again, Howard Bloom wants you to believe that Maddie wants Kaylee and Jack back together and is trying to smooth the waters. That is pure speculation on Howard Bloom's point. He's saying you could imagine, he's basically telling you, this is what I think's happening. I think a very different thing is happening at the bar that night. Kaylee had broke up with him. She was making it clear to everyone the relationship was over, and Maddie told him everything. There was something else Maddie told him that wasn't positive for getting Jack and Kaylee back together. This is why Jack isn't... Think about this. If Maddie's trying to get Jack and Kaylee back together, then why is Jack DeCour ignoring their phone calls? They're desperately trying to call him between 2 or 3 in the morning. Desperately trying to call him. He's ignoring both of their calls. Jack wants nothing to do, it seems like, with it. Now, granted, could he have turned the phone off because, as some say, he had to work in the morning, so he just turned his phone off and went to sleep? Sure, that might explain it. But I think something else happened at the bar that night. Then it was past 1 a.m., close to 1:30 by some accounts, and while worse for a drink, but happily so, the two women left the bar. Following behind them, a decorous distance, was Jack Showalter. He was someone they knew from around campus, and when they left, he had tagged along. Perhaps they thought it was a protective gesture, an acquaintance keeping a watchful eye as they sauntered down Main Street in the sharp, dark night. Or maybe they found his trailing them an annoyance. Or maybe, Devil's Advocate's adding, maybe Jack DeCour was following the girls because somebody had been following Kaylee for quite some time. People had been, a group of people had been following Kaylee Gonzalez to the point that she was nervous enough to call police and say she's being stalked by multiple people. She leaves the bar and someone's following her. Now he'll try to he'll paint it, oh, he's just protecting the girls, keeping in a watchful eye. Or somebody wants to know what Kaylee's up to. Where's Kaylee going after she just shit all over her ex-boyfriend at the bar? Okay, so regardless, the two women paid him no mind. Kaylee's thoughts were elsewhere. Maddie, what did you say to Adam? That's the clip that I played for you and you heard. Maddie, what did you say to Adam? It was as if she feared her friend had been probing the bartender about Jack DeCour. And I'm sure that's what Kaylee was thinking. Oh my God, what did you say tonight to Jack's best friend? Like, I told Adam everything, Maddie conceded. Everything. What does that mean? That she's moving on, that she had another boyfriend, that she was pregnant. There's a lot of rumors out there. What was everything that she told Jack DeCour? I bet it wasn't, as Howard Bloom wants you to believe, somehow Maddie trying to get the two of them back together again. That seemed a sufficient explanation, Howard Bloom tells us. At once, Kaylee stopped delving into such raw territory. And besides, she had her pride and Showalter was lurking. Apparently, this is later on at the grub truck. Apparently, she, that's Maddie, turned towards Showalter. His hood was now pulled over his ball cap on his head, and he stood in the shadows talking quietly to another guy. Fuck you, Maddie declared. She might have been talking to Showalter. Chances are pretty good she was talking to Showalter, in my opinion. Now, Bloom says we don't know who he's talking to, but she turns towards Showalter, who's got his ball cap and he's lurking in the shadows with another guy watching the girls from the grub truck, one can say. I don't know. I'm adding that part myself. He followed the girls out of the bar. He's watching from the shadows. He says something and Maddie says, fuck you, in that direction. And then they get in the car and they die. Now, I think that's all we really need to cover for, oh yeah, this is what I wanted. Unable to sleep, so they're back at the house. Unable to sleep, Kaylee's mind refuses to rest, or was it her heart? This is again, was it her heart? This is Howard Bloom trying to tell you Kaylee still wants her ex-boyfriend back, despite the fact that he's told us over and over again she had broken it off with him and went and told everybody vehemently that relationship is over. But Howard Bloom still is trying to say her heart is speaking to her. She wants to be back with her ex-boyfriend. My ass, Howard Bloom. I can't say that enough times. It's like my favorite phrase today. My ass, Howard Bloom. By the way, those of you who tell me, oh, Mr. Advocate, you're reading Howard Bloom's book. I can't believe you would give that guy credence. His book's not the truth. I'm not telling you it's the truth. Look at how I'm treating Howard Bloom's book. I can wipe my ass with this guy's book. Anyways, so, had she realized at the end of a long day that all her scrupulously correct behavior at the corner club was worth nothing, no less than nothing, she had called Jack at 2:26 a.m. He didn't answer, and within 30 minutes she had called another 6 times. All the calls went straight to voicemail. Then, full of a newfound urgency, she had recruited Maddie to reach out to Jack to help things make things right. All that is definitively known is that Maddie, once Kaylee had given up, also tried to call Jack 3 times in rapid succession, but she too had no success. Her attempts went unanswered, and so by 3 a.m., assuredly frustrated, they were at last ready to call it a day, and an hour or so later they're dead. Now, Howard Bloom will tell you, oh, Kaylee's heart ached. She wanted to get back with her boyfriend. She wants him to come over and hang out and make things right. Or the devil's advocate spin, because I'll have to counter this bullshit. Kaylee went there and humiliated her ex-boyfriend in front of everyone. Jack Showalter followed her around the bar and said, they're going to get you for this. And then she realizes perhaps, oh God, I fucked up. People are threatening us. They're going to come get us. Maybe we went too far. We got to smooth shit over with Jack DeCour. So she's calling the ex-boyfriend to be like, no, you misunderstand. I'm sorry, I went too far, blah, blah, blah. We were drunk, whatever the case may be. That's my spin. Howard Bloom wants to say, oh, her heart's broken and she wants her boyfriend back. No, I'm telling you, my spin, more likely, is she just shit all over her ex-boyfriend publicly and been threatened that they're going to get her for that, and now she wants to smooth the waters over before somebody gets hurt. So there you go. That's my take, again, on the corner club that evening. Take it or leave it. Mine is just an opinion. I'm an asshole like Howard Bloom. It's okay for you to be a little bit vocal with your disagreement, Please be respectful, however, and don't call me an idiot. Don't call me names. But that also is up to you. I let a little bit of that slide. I want to ask if you have any questions or comments that you want to add in the chat. I'll give us about 5 or so minutes to do some questions and answers, and then we'll wrap up for the day. But I want to remind you of something big. I forgot to lead with this tonight. And just a few hours, in about 4 more hours, actually 3 hours and 45 minutes more, I'm going to be going live with Pete Altieri from Murder Metal Mayhem, YouTuber who's got a much bigger following than me. He and I are going to do a show tonight in about 4 hours or so at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please, if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about Murder Metal Mayhem and my take together on the Idaho 4, we're going to talk about some other cases as well. We're going to talk about a manhunt that's going on in my neck of the woods for Travis Decker, who murdered his 3 young daughters and is on the run and is about to get captured. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Lots of stuff talking about we're going to talk about Brent Kopacka. We're going to talk about PTSD. We're going to talk about psychological motives and murders. So if you're interested in that, check that show out. Any last minute questions before I leave? And again, check us out tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you watch Pete Altieri and Murder Metal Mayhem, you're going to want to catch that show. I hope it will be well attended and we'll have a good time tonight. Any other questions? Laura says, I think something is on Kaylee's laptop. I see her tapping on her phone. It's easy to record voices and objects. Good observation, Laura. And by the way, thank you for being a member of the Devil's Advocates channel. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, if you want to send me a clip of that, I'll take a look at that again. I'm trying to remember what you saw, but I would love to look into that a bit more. Hellbear says Pete's great. Pete is great. So check out Pete and I. Pete and I talked on the phone the other day, kind of got to know each other a little personally. He was laughing when he saw my little Devil's Advocates thing, and I had little devils for my intro, and he's like, how the hell am I not talking to this guy? Like, we have a common theme with his 666 seconds of Murder Metal Mayhem. So it should be interesting for us to talk about some things there too. Any other comments, questions about Brian Kohberger before we shut down? Or even Luigi, if you missed having a question or comment about Luigi. I'll give it a couple more minutes. Some people are suggesting in the chat that Jack DeCoeur didn't, no way he fell asleep that fast and not answer those calls, because I had speculated, maybe you could say, because Jack DeCoeur allegedly had told the girls that he didn't want to go out to another bar. Allegedly, Jack DeCoeur told people that things were cool between him and Kaylee that night. In fact, she had invited him to go out to another bar, but he told her that he couldn't because he had to work in the morning. That was something that came allegedly from Jack DeCoeur's camp. Hey, things were cool between me and her. She even wanted me to go out to the bar, but I couldn't because I had to work in the morning. As people say, I don't think Jack DeCoeur turned his phone off that quick. And I don't think that's what happened that night. All right, people, thank you so much for supporting and watching the channel. I've got members in here who've subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much for watching that. I've got lots of long-form content that I make available to members only ahead of time. I've got all kinds of member-only videos as well that are just above and beyond, things that I'm not ready to go public with, but sometimes I'll give you my extra rant. I'm out of breath. I need to take a break. I need to take a walk. I need to get some exercise. Tomorrow night, there's going to be a live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday night, followed by my After Dark show. That is the After Dark show is on Discord and streamed to my Backstage account, where we have a few drinks and we say a few things inappropriately, and we say a lot more swear bombs, as if that could be possible, because I swear a lot. Leilani, thank you for appreciating my take on things, and all the new people that are in here. I think I said somebody else said that they were new to the channel. Yeah, so looking forward to tonight. Pete Altieri and I, Murder Metal Mayhem and Devil's Advocates. I jokingly refer to that show as the Murder Advocates or Devil's Mayhem. I think I called it Devil's Mayhem. It's like, Pete, we should call this Devil's Mayhem when we go together. But really what we're going to do is I'm going to let Pete take the lead. It's Pete's show. I'm coming on as a host on Pete's show, but I will be streaming it on my channel as well. And hopefully Pete's going to try to give me a plug. I know he's going to give me a plug. He's going to give me a plug and tell people that they should follow my channel. Hopefully we pick up some new viewers. The channel gets a little hotter and we get a little bit more interest and some more brains behind the brain trust. All those things moving in the right direction. So excited to have have you guys. I'm so excited. We got it. And by the way, I was supposed to do this on Streamyard. Streamyard is a new product I bought. I paid good money for it, and then it crashed today, and so nobody could do their streaming. Streamyard is how Pete Altieri and I are supposed to go live together tonight together. So if they don't get Streamyards fixed by tonight, well, I don't know what the backup plan is. So hopefully they got about 4 hours to get that website back up and running again so that we can stream tonight live together. Have a good evening, and I'll check you guys out later.